So today is Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. I am the interviewer Amy Moritz with Judy Otto at her home in Lockport, New York. Judy is a 1970 graduate of Barker High School and earned a health and physical education teaching degree at Slippery Rock in Pennsylvania in 1974. She then wasted no time getting to work creating a girls' sports program at Barker where none had existed in the past. She coached every girls' sport at Barker in the mid 1970s while building a field hockey powerhouse, amassing 313 victories, 13 Niagara-Orleans League titles, 15 Section 6 titles, 3 Far West regional titles, and 2 trips to the state Final Four. That's a lot. You got there. That's a nice long career for you there. So my first question for you is, can you tell me about a time that you first remember falling in love with sports?
In high school, I always loved sports, but they weren't available except for intramurals, and we called them extramurals in those days, where we competed with other schools, other high schools in the area. Um, and that was and so I was a cheerleader at that time. I always say I was a rah-rah.
But that was all that was one of the only things that was available to you at the time was to be able to do that.
Intramurals, but
Right.
like I said, extramurals also, but where we played other schools. But other than that, no, not uh, like it is at the level that it is now.
Right. So when you were playing those intramurals and those extramurals, what sports were you playing?
Basketball. We did some field hockey. We did some volleyball. Mostly basketball, though. I don't know why they did that, but I think it was the easiest to put all the schools together,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Was there anything about, like, was it the competition? Was it the just being active? Was there anything that really kind of caught you a little bit? You caught that bug when you were in high school?
I don't know. My father was a real athlete, and he kind of inspired me to do that as well. And my brothers were in athletics as well. I don't know. I just loved it. Watching it, being a part of it. That was all a part of it. So, but going away to college, this area really did not have anything for girls. So I did not compete in college because they were way ahead of me and had been competing in Pennsylvania for a long time. So,
Yeah. Tell me about going to Slippery Rock. Like, tell me about that decision and going into phys ed. Was that something that you wanted to do? Was it what was available to you? A little bit of both.
um, I just don't know. I wanted to do it. It was my favorite class in high school. And I think I was inspired by my phys ed teacher at the time, who was an Ithaca graduate. And I don't know. I just went ahead, and that's what. Well, I had two choices. I loved music, and I thought I would be in music, but I didn't really feel that I was as competent in music as I was able to do athletics myself. So that's what I ended up doing, and Slippery Rock was really, really into athletics at that time, and they had some Division 1 sports, not for girls but men, or boys. So that's where I ended up. But I think my true love came when I was able to do those things in college, and but it was a challenge. I mean, I had to do gymnastics, and we'd never done gymnastics in high school, and things that I had to really work at. I had to go to the gym and work out extra. So, and I liked doing that. So, did I think I was going to end up where I am? No, because I really thought I wanted to go to Colorado. I love to ski, and I thought I would. And I tried a few times to go there, and but came home with my tail between my legs, I guess I could say, and got involved in my first year. I actually taught earth science, And then from there, my high school phys ed teacher had a child, and they asked me to take her place. And then they asked me, because they said she won't coach, and then they said, we have to start a girls' sports program. So will you do that? We will give you the job. So that's where started out. That was my start.
That was your start. So obviously the plan wasn't necessarily to come back home to Barker.
No.
Right?
No, not at all. I wanted so much to travel and go somewhere else. In fact, I had interviewed for a job in Pennsylvania, but somebody that had taught for 9 years got the job, and I didn't. So that's when I came home and said, "That's it. I'll be home."
You said like they offered you. They said your other teacher didn't want to. The phys ed teacher didn't want to coach, and they're like, we have to start a girls program because that was right after Title IX was passed.
Right.
So what was that like a little bit? Like, will you start you're starting something from scratch? Did they have any idea? Did you kind of create it yourself? How did you kind of go about starting that program?
I had to take care of it myself, and they said, go on and talk to somebody that's in charge of the Niagara-Orleans League. And that was, at the time, Pinky Laughlin at Medina. And it was funny. He said, I said, I'm not sure about field hockey. I don't really feel competent about it. He told me to go read a book. So that's how I ended up with that. And then there was Jan Williams from Akron, who was very successful. And believe it or not, even though we were competitive, she helped me a lot and get started. So, and that really, again, was not my favorite at the time, but I had to do all 4 sports because there were 4 sports for girls at the time. And then I don't remember the exact year, but the boys filed a lawsuit that they wanted 4 sports seasons, and so then they cut the girls back to 3. And then I had to make a choice between volleyball and field hockey, and I ended up taking field hockey because I had wanted to have children and I wanted to be home with them. And it was so late at night with volleyball that I ended up with field hockey. So I read a few books.
Now you could write a few books. I mean, after, the success that you had. Before we talk about field hockey, tell me about there were 4 sports for girls that you started with. So it was, what were was it volleyball?
It was field hockey. Mm-hmm. Volleyball was winter 1. Okay, then it went to basketball, and then it went to softball. But they were all overlapping. They had to overlap to squeeze them in. And so that's how it ended up. I ended up with field hockey. And everybody said to me, well, probably when you have just one sport on your plate, you will really do a lot better. And because we were successful, but not real successful. And so that's what happened. And the last year I coached volleyball, we won the section. And at that time, we didn't have a state tournament, so that was as far as we went. And then that was the last season that I coached volleyball, and then I just stuck with field hockey. So, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of, they told you here, go start, go talk to people. But what kind of resources did you have available? Were there resources from the school or the school district to get those programs off the ground?
No, not really. It was very difficult. The men were not receptive at all to sharing facilities. For example, when I coached basketball, they would stay in the gym longer than their scheduled time, or they would steal my basketballs so that we only had one to play with or something like that. So I had a lot of crying sessions with my superintendent saying, if you want me to do this, then you have to help me educate the men that this is what has to be done. And so, no, they did not help. In fact, they wanted the boys at Barker at the time were playing in the Genesee region. And I said, oh, no, we can't do that. We can't travel that far, come home those late nights. No, we can't do that. And so that was another issue that was very difficult with the district. And so I had to convince them that, and we had a lot of separate meetings and things like that. And then the Niagara-Orleans really wanted us in there because it rounded off their numbers. And so then we had to vote, not go through all that, and we voted as a unit, and we eventually got the Niagara-Orleans League, and then it wasn't too many years later that the men came back and joined it too, the Niagara-Orleans League. So, yeah.
That was those early years when you're building the program. What was the reception of the girls who were playing, who you weren't that much older than at that time, right? Like you were fresh out of college and they're
right.
in high school.
I think some of them were a little reluctant at first because it wasn't the thing to do. But eventually, I convinced them that they should play and do something for themselves. And so, yeah, it was a challenge, though, because it wasn't accepted. And so that bothered them, I think, too. So it wasn't just the girl that, how do I want to put this, was kind of jockish. It became that everyone did it. Everyone wanted to play it. So, and I felt very confident the way that they responded. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, they talk about it now. I mean, probably like the oldest girls that I have are in their 60s now. That's who I had to begin with. So, yes, there was not a big age difference between us. So...
What was that like for you as a coach? I mean, were there still people that you were coaching that you were friends with when you were, or that knew your family, or how was there anything you had to navigate with that?
No, not really at the time, because I kept myself, I didn't become a friend, so to speak. I have lots of friends now, but no, I was very strict at the time, and so I thought they were very accepting at the time because they didn't have anything else. So what was there, And at that time, I was coaching all 4 sports, so they didn't have a choice. Eventually. When I gave up the other 2 sports, when they went to 3 sports, then it was different. They got different coaches and, so it made a difference.
Right. Now, you were also at the same time still teaching phys ed?
Yes.
Okay.
At that time, because when I first started, as I told you, I was teaching earth science, and that was not when I started the program. It wasn't until I left earth science and went to phys ed and that we began with that program.
Okay. I was just curious, like with phys ed at the time for boys and girls, like was there any different philosophy about the way that you approached health and physical education for girls than boys, or how did you maybe even just see that, or even away from the competitive part of sports, but just like that evolve even?
Well, at the time, the girls had to be by themselves and the boys had to be by themselves. As the years progressed, we then went to co-ed classes. And but I also felt that the girls actually liked being just themselves in the classes because they didn't have to be competitive. Some of them, though, really enjoyed it because they were much more athletic and physical, and decided to they wanted that competition. So yes, but it took a long while for us to get to the co-ed phys ed classes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about field hockey, which you learned from how to coach by reading books. Is that kind of how that
Yes.
evolved a little bit?
Yes, and I had, like I said, a friend at Akron who was very good, and she helped me out too. I remember getting beat, very beat by her team, and calling her and saying, "Oh my goodness, I need your help. What do I need to do?" And she goes, "Well, I'll tell you what you need to do." And so she did, and then I started working on it. And then she gave me very specific drills and things like that I could do with them. So, yeah, I felt like I stood on the shoulders of those women. They were really wonderful at the time.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like there other women coaching that would help, that helped you out, or that would help each other out, even though you were competitors. You wanted everybody to do something, right?
Well, they wanted me to become competitive so that I would make their teams better as well. So that's where we went with that, I believe, anyway. But and we became great friends. So
was there a point when you started to love field hockey? Was there, or was it a means to, I don't know. How did your relationship with field hockey kind of evolve?
I just always liked sports, so I guess maybe it didn't matter what it was so much as it was that, because I think if I would have had the opportunity, I did well with volleyball too. So I can't say that but I began to love the sport because it was fall and the kids loved it, and it. I don't know. And then when we became successful at it, then you totally love your sport, But yeah. And the higher level we achieved helped me get real excited about the sport and more interested, and that's why I became involved in the state part of it, because I learned more from going and watching a state tournament than any camp or anything that I would attend.
Yeah, say more about that. What were some of those things that getting involved at the state level, or going even to watch at the state level, that was more beneficial to you?
Well, like I said, we were not the most successful area in field hockey, or the strongest, I should say. So across the state, when I would go and watch their play is when I would learn and talk to other coaches. And then when we became successful, they were at the state level, they were amazed that such a small school would be known throughout the state for their level of play. And I was very proud of that, But I also have felt that it's the girls that I had. They were bright, good students. They loved their sport. They were very competitive, and I believe that's where that all came from. That success, that level of success.
I want to ask you a little bit about growing the team in the program, because when I think about field hockey, at least in this area, traditionally, it feels a little bit like it was a niche sport. Not everybody played it across, not every school in Section 6 played it. It seemed like it was, the Niagara Frontier League didn't play it at least when I was growing up in the 80s, they didn't play it, right? So Niagara-Orleans League was what had field hockey. You didn't, it's not like basketball camps or softball program. So was there just having the program at school kind of get where girls would become exposed to it, or were there recreation program? Like how did you kind of build that program with a sport that's maybe not
Popular.
popular?
Well, I used to have camps at Barker, and then not only did I have that, but I would have tournaments, preseason tournaments, and I would invite all those schools that were not NFL but ECIC, and so that my kids could see that's what they needed to become, and that helped the interest. And then I started to teach sixth grade phys ed, and they learned then what it was. Now they have summer camps for the little kids, and so the program is still surviving, but and I think that that's because of the coaches that I had working with me. They've continued on to do that. And so I think that's where that came from, because they, then they knew what the game was, because field hockey is a difficult sport. You have to learn the stick skills, and you have to learn how to use a stick. And it's not like soccer when anybody can kick a ball. You have to learn the skills in field hockey. So if you don't teach them, then they don't feel comfortable playing it or trying it. So that's where we started with the teaching of the in sixth grade, and then I would have little ones that might help with brothers or sisters, even because it is a men's sport, and they would come and play sometimes at practice or something like that too. So,
at what point did you start to have continued success at Barker and field hockey? Did it was it kind of growing and kind of like become sustained over a period of time?
Yeah, it started growing is what had happened, and my assistant coach and I used to say, okay, now we only have 10 people coming up, so we need to recruit more. So we would go and do that, and he would help me with that. And yeah, and then I think it was successful, and everybody wants to be part of success. Right. So they came out, and I think it became almost like the Barker girls sport. Now there's others there now, that are very successful. But I think field hockey was the example,
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like the trailblazer sport, right? To kind of set that success. When you started to have that success, what was the response of, like I said, everyone loves a winner. So like were those male administrators and those other guys, were they jumping on a bandwagon with you? Were the resources become more available as you had more success, or was that still a little bit of a fight?
It was still a little bit of a fight. I don't think that, even today, I don't think that as many males support the programs as maybe the fathers, but I just think that they still pay more attention and give more to the men or the boys' sports. However, I did have superintendents that once their daughters played, they gave us a lot of kudos. So it was a process.
Yeah. That's a lot of people have said that they'll get support once of men once they have daughters who are then playing sports,
right,
and they see how important that is.
Right.
But you have to have the program, right, to have
right,
them to have that experience.
Right. And we have at the state level, if you look at the stands when they're playing, the fathers are the most verbal, so to speak, and standing up and, the carrying on over their daughters playing and really pushing them, so like they would their sons,
Yeah.
So.
Over your 37-year career, how much did the game itself change? Did it at all?
It didn't really change a lot. No, it didn't really change a lot. I mean, we started out with when the ball went out of bounds, you had roll-ins, so to speak, and now they don't do that. But I mean, for most part, it didn't really change. Some of the equipment did, and some of the rules, because the more adept the players became, then the more the harder the ball got hit, that kind of thing. And so, yes, that's the only thing I would say that it really changed. Yeah.
You mentioned that kind of felt that field hockey, like they had Barker went on to have other very successful girls programs, but field hockey maybe kind of set the tone or
Yes.
level set. Where did you see, or how did you see, or did you see opportunities then grow for girls at Barker and in the Niagara-Orleans League, or did it stagnate a little bit?
No, it didn't stagnate. It just, I think it encouraged them to do other sports. And the same programs that we had for field hockey, they picked them up in other sports too. And I think they also wanted to do the same thing that the males were doing, with the camps and the traveling and the those kinds of things. And so they picked it up, and that's what they did with it. Yeah. Okay. But I don't know I don't know how else to explain it, but I think that, and of course the coaching became more visible. I mean, how you should coach. And although I do still get a little disturbed about the way I see male coaching females, the way they're treating them and things like that, that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah. What was your philosophy with working with girls teams? Did it evolve over time? Like how did you overall, was it very individual with individuals and different teams? Maybe some you could push more than others, or how did you maybe find like that balance, or what was, how did that kind of work for you?
Well, each person was an individual, but I did try to treat everyone equally, and my expectations from each one should be the same. But I do think that made a difference. And I mean, I've talked to my players since then, and a lot of them would say, you taught us that we weren't just in the sport, that these were all life experiences, and how we should behave in our life situations. And I've had, I don't know if this is the time to talk about it, but I've had my players seem to have done great success. I have doctors, and I have lawyers, I have, and I mean, most of them are that, engineers, and I feel very confident about what they've done with their lives. And they all say that it's the discipline that they learned in sports and that has made them a success. So we'll see.
That is something that is across the board. People talk about, women who achieve, who are CEOs, or who are like, they have that sports in their background, from that discipline. It sounds like that's your lived experience from talking with your former players.
Well, I do have one player who's a COO, and she said, if they come to me and they told me that they played field hockey for Barker, I immediately knew that I should hire them, because they knew what it was like. They had a work ethic, and they were successful in that way. So it was very interesting. You should say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in your time, were you also involved with like Section 6, any sectional like governance or committees and things like that, or?
Well, I was in charge of Section 6 field hockey. And, well, for a while I was in charge of Section 6 volleyball. And, but then when I wasn't coaching volleyball anymore, I got out of that. But, and that was kind of unheard of because they would say, oh, they wanted the big school person to be doing that job. And I mean like a Sweet Home or a Clarence or something like that. But I kind of wiggled my way in there and was very happy I did because I felt as though it gave the small school a voice. And I always have liked to kind of give the one giving the directions. And so that was important.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask you about like gender dynamics there, but there's also that school size and rural versus city, and all of that also playing out, at the sectional level. So, it sounds like it was really important for you to give that voice to the smaller schools there.
Right, and I liked that, and so forth became the section or the coordinator for the state for our section. And I liked that responsibility too, because that gave us a voice. And I did that for 25 years and I loved it. I hated to give it up, but there's only so much you can do. And it's a lot of traveling, and especially at the end of the season. And I did host a state tournament here at Williamsville North, and it was lovely. The people there were wonderful to work with, and the only problem we had was it was very cold. So they all complained that, it's so cold, but it was very nice because it was 2 fields and we could play at 2 games at once, and it was really nice. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
were there certain issues that you remember that that you wanted to make sure the small schools had that maybe a bigger school just they didn't have to deal with it, so they didn't even think about it? Were there like, has anything come to mind about?
Well, the bigger schools, of course, had better facilities at times. Mm-hmm. Now I don't think there's only maybe 1 or 2 schools in the section that doesn't have a turf field. But I would always take my kids and say, it doesn't matter where you play. It's a turf field. Play on the turf. And so they did that. But Barker, since I've retired, now has turf. And I'm very, very happy that they do. Mm-hmm. So, because it does make a difference in the game. Because as the levels progress, it's better. You have to play on turf because of the weather issues. So we all need to play on turf to practice before. So I'm very happy with them that they have that. It's much easier to maintain too. But at one time, we had the nicest grass field in the whole area because my people that I worked with were very good about fixing it, so to speak. So.
Right. Yeah. Keeping that maintained. Well, that's like you mentioned equipment. That's one of the changes, right? Is going more towards that, the turf field, particularly in this area of the world.
I think there's only 2 schools in the Niagara-Orleans League now that don't have turf. So, but all the rest of the Buffalo schools and, that all have turf. So.
Did you see more resources? Like, that's an investment that a school district has to make, right? In the turf field. And a lot of times they're multi-purpose, right? So you can use it for multiple sports, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not sport specific, but there's still like that investment in the sports, and that's going to benefit girls. So did you see, like you mentioned, like after superintendents had girls play, like they were mm-hmm. more receptive to that. Did that get those conversations get easier? That investment become more over time?
Well, I think it did. Yes, it did. Um, Again, though, it was kind of a if you had someone that was playing. I mean, one time I had a Board of Education member whose daughter was playing, and so we got this and this and this, and that kind of thing. Yeah, it definitely matters.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen. It doesn't. But I think everybody now is, I mean, and it's catching on. It's like, oh well, if so and so does it, we need to do that. And so that's how it came about.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there an aspect? I'm not asking you to pick out like a favorite team or anything like that, because that's impossible to do. But of your coaching, is there something that is one or two things that maybe you're most proud of or fond of or appreciative of that from your time building that program at Barker?
Well, I really appreciated the kids. I mean, they were the ones that made my program. I mean, they like I said, they've all been so successful that it's amazing. And for a small school to have that many people become important and have great futures like that, I just think that I give all the credit to the kids because it was something that they wanted too, or it wouldn't have happened,
All right. My last question for you is, what does Title IX mean to you?
We've talked about this before. I think that Title IX brought about what they were trying to do, is to give the opportunity to girls the same opportunity that the men had. But we have a lot of things that don't contribute to it at this point still. And for example, I'm not sure that I will ever see a woman president in my lifetime. And I feel that's all part of the process of Title IX. So we're really not finished. We need to go forward with it. So.
Oh, I think there's sometimes you see the progress that's made and you forget that there's still progress that needs to come, right? It's unfinished.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, Judy, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.